All right, welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive.
Definitely. Always up for a good deep dive.
Okay, so this time we're going deep into Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, specifically some key excerpts.
Oh, Deathly Hallows. That's a good one. Lots to unpack there.
It really is, even for a story we all know so well. I mean, there's always something new to discover.
Right. Like we're not just dealing with, you know, school rivalries and Quidditch matches anymore.
Exactly. This one gets pretty heavy. We're talking power, loyalty, sacrifice, the big stuff.
And it's interesting how those themes, they've been there all along throughout the series. But in Deathly Hallows, they just become so much more intense. Like we're looking at the very nature of good and evil and how the choices we make can actually change the course of history.
Yeah, it makes you think, doesn't it, about our own choices.
Absolutely.
So let's start with Voldemort.
Okay, yeah, he's a good place to start.
It's not just about conquering the wizarding world for him, it's about this relentless pursuit of power.
Right. He wants the Elder Wand. Believes it's the ultimate weapon, the key to defeating Harry once and for all.
And he's so fixated on it.
Obsessed.
Like, remember when he interrogates Ollivander the Wand Maker?
Yeah, that scene's intense.
He expects this simple answer, you know? Confirmation that possessing the wand equals power.
But that's not how it works at all.
No, and Ollivander tries to explain that. A wand chooses a wizard. It's about understanding, about connection.
But Voldemort he can't grasp that.
Nope, he's so used to just taking what he wants, imposing his will on the world. He doesn't understand this idea of a power that's outside his control.
It's almost ironic, right? He's considered this brilliant wizard, but he's missing this crucial piece of the puzzle.
Totally. Like, it made me think about the difference between power and authority.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, Voldemort might have authority, through fear and intimidation.
Yeah, he definitely uses fear.
But true power, the kind that comes from understanding, from connection, that always eludes him.
It's like the difference between a dictator who rules through force and a leader who inspires.
Right, exactly.
Voldemort might have the Elder Wand, but he never truly understands its power because he lacks those essential qualities: empathy, compassion.
Okay, so we've got Voldemort obsessed with the Elder Wand, but there's more to it than that.
Oh yeah, we've got the whole Deathly Hallows thing to deal with.
Right. The story of the three brothers, the tales of Beetle the Bard. What do you make of that?
Well, on the surface, it seems like a simple children's story.
Yeah, you could definitely see it that way.
But when you look closer, there's some really profound stuff there. About human nature, about the things we desire.
It's true. Each Hallow represents a different kind of temptation. Like the Elder Wand, the allure of power.
And the Resurrection Stone. The desire to conquer death, to hold on to those we've lost. Pretty powerful stuff.
And then, of course, there's the invisibility cloak, which Harry's had all along. It's almost like he was destined to have it.
It's true. And it's interesting how the cloak represents this idea of stepping back from the spotlight, of choosing to observe rather than dominate.
Which is so different from how Voldemort operates.
Exactly. Voldemort's all about grandstanding, about making his presence known. He could never understand the power of humility.
It makes you wonder, though, how would you react if you were offered the Hallows?
Oh, that's a tough one. It really makes you think.
Right. Would you be tempted by the Elder Wand, the Resurrection Stone, or would you choose the invisibility cloak?
It's almost like a personality test, right? Which Hallow would you choose, and what would that choice say about you?
Okay, so we've talked about Voldemort, we've talked about the Hallows, but there's another powerful figure we need to discuss, Dumbledore.
Yeah, Dumbledore. He's such a complex character. Especially in Deathly Hallows, we see a side of him we haven't seen before.
Right, he's always presented as this wise, almost saintly figure.
But we learn about his past, his friendship with Grindelwald, their shared ambition. It's a reminder that even the greatest wizards can make mistakes.
And this is where the theme of sacrifice really comes into focus, don't you think?
I think so, yeah. Dumbledore, he was tempted by the same desires for power that consumed Voldemort. But then, the tragic death of his sister Ariana, that changes everything.
It's a turning point for him. He realizes how destructive ambition can be, and he dedicates his life to atoning for his past mistakes.
It's not just about defeating Voldemort for Dumbledore. It's about protecting Harry, guiding him toward a future where those mistakes aren't repeated.
And he sacrifices so much to make that happen. His happiness, his reputation, even his life.
Which makes him such a stark contrast to Voldemort, right? They're both powerful wizards, but their motivations are completely different.
Totally. Voldemort seeks power for himself. He's driven by fear and this need for control. But Dumbledore, he wants to use his power to protect others. He's guided by love and a desire for redemption.
Yeah, it's a pretty powerful contrast.
And speaking of complicated motivations, let's talk about Severus Snape.
Oh, Snape. He's a whole other can of worms.
He's been there all along, this mysterious figure lurking in the background. But it's in Deathly Hallows that we finally understand him.
His backstory, his connection to Lily Potter, it's all revealed.
It is heartbreaking.
It really is. His whole life is shaped by this love for Lily, and he dedicates himself to protecting Harry, even though it means operating in the shadows, constantly being misunderstood,
He's a double agent, risking his life every day.
and enduring so much hatred from Harry, from everyone.
It makes you think about the nature of love, doesn't it? How it can drive us to do extraordinary things, both good and bad.
Yeah, Snape's love for Lily is his greatest strength and his greatest weakness. It motivates his heroism, but it also blinds him to Harry's own pain.
It's such a complicated relationship. But, speaking of relationships, we can't forget about Harry's friends, Ron and Hermione.
Oh, they're essential. Harry wouldn't have survived without them.
They're his rock. They bicker, they disagree, but their bond is unbreakable.
And that's something Voldemort could never understand. The strength that comes from human connection. He isolates himself, surrounds himself with fear and distrust.
But Harry, he draws strength from the love and loyalty of his friends. And that's so important.
And remember when Ron leaves.
Oh, yeah, that was rough.
It's a reminder that even the strongest friendships can be tested. But it's also about forgiveness, about understanding each other's flaws and coming back together.
And we can't forget about Hermione. She's the brains of the operation.
Absolutely. Always thinking things through, planning their next move. She's crucial to their survival.
She represents logic, resourcefulness, like a reminder that even in the face of chaos, we can use our minds to find solutions.
And together, the three of them, Harry, Ron, and Hermione, they represent unity.
They are a force to be reckoned with, even against Voldemort.
And as we head into the final part of this story, that unity, that loyalty, is going to be more important than ever. It's really amazing how much planning Dumbledore did. Like, even after he's gone, he's still guiding Harry.
You're talking about those weird bequests, the golden snitch and all that.
Exactly. It all seems so random at the time. But looking back, it's clear Dumbledore was leaving clues, little nudges in the right direction.
A master strategist, even beyond the grave. It's almost like he knew Harry would figure things out eventually.
He understood the power of discovery, letting Harry find his own way, make his own choices.
And speaking of discovery, that's where the Deathly Hallows become really important, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That children's story, The Tales of Beetle the Bard, it takes on a whole new meaning.
Because suddenly we realize Harry's invisibility cloak is one of the Hallows, and he's descended from Ignotus Peverell, the third brother. Talk about a family heirloom, right?
It's more than just a cool connection, though. It suggests a sort of, predisposition towards the Hallows. Like, Harry's inherited this connection to these powerful objects.
But it's still a choice, right?
Yeah.
He could be tempted by the power of the Hallows, like anyone else, especially the Resurrection Stone.
Oh, definitely. I mean, who wouldn't want to bring back loved ones? That's a powerful temptation.
And that's where Hermione comes in, I think. Always the voice of reason.
Yeah, she's like, guys, stick to the plan. Find the Horcruxes, defeat Voldemort. No time for fairy tales.
Practical Hermione, always keeping them grounded.
But even she can't ignore all the evidence that keeps popping up about the Hallows. Like, remember that symbol Xenophilius Lovegood wears?
Oh, yeah, the weird triangle thing.
That's the symbol of the Deathly Hallows.
Mm-hmm.
And it keeps showing up like a trail of breadcrumbs on Ignotus Peverell's grave in Dumbledore's old books.
It's like the story's pulling Harry in whether he wants it to or not. But we have to remember these objects, they're not just powerful, they represent choices, temptations.
You're right. Each brother in the story makes a different choice with different consequences.
The Elder Wand promises power, but it corrupts. We've seen that with Grindelwald and Voldemort.
And the Resurrection Stone, well, it offers a false hope, a way to cheat death. But it leads to isolation, despair.
Even the invisibility cloak, which seems harmless, could be used to hide, to escape responsibility.
So yeah, it's a test, isn't it? Which Hallow would you choose, knowing all that?
It's a tough question, but I think it really gets to the heart of what Deathly Hallows is about. The power of choice.
Yeah, throughout the book, Harry, Ron, and Hermione, they're constantly faced with these difficult decisions, moments where they have to decide what they really believe in, what they're willing to fight for.
Like that moment in the Ministry of Magic when Harry sees Umbridge wearing the locket Horcrux.
Oh man, that scene.
He could have taken it right there, but he chooses to help the innocent Muggleborns instead.
Putting himself at risk.
Because it was the right thing to do. And that, I think, is what defines Harry as a hero. He's not driven by revenge or a thirst for power. He wants to do what's right.
And that's what sets him apart from Voldemort. Voldemort's all about himself, his own ambition.
And it's not just Harry, right? We see this idea of choice playing out with other characters, too, like Dumbledore.
Dumbledore made choices he regretted, spent his life trying to make amends for them.
And then there's Snape, whose entire life is shaped by the choices he made, both good and bad.
His love for Lily, his decision to protect Harry, even betraying Voldemort in the end.
It's a reminder that our choices have consequences, but they don't always define us. We can learn from our mistakes, choose a different path.
And in a way, Deathly Hallows is about all these choices coming together, leading to that final confrontation with Voldemort.
The stakes are so high, it's a battle for the soul of the wizarding world.
And it all comes down to one final choice, one final battle.
You know, it's interesting thinking about the Battle of Hogwarts. It's not just wands and spells, you know?
Oh yeah, it's so much more than that.
Like, it's the culmination of everything we've been talking about, all the choices, the sacrifices, and ultimately it comes down to this question of what kind of world are we fighting for?
Right. What do we believe in? What's worth sacrificing for?
Are we going to let fear and tyranny win, or are we going to stand up for love, compassion, and understanding?
Big question.
Yeah, and at the center of it all is the Elder Wand.
Of course, Voldemort thinks it's the key to everything.
Thinks it'll make him invincible.
But he's so wrong about how it works, how the allegiance passes from wizard to wizard.
Right. He thinks it's about ownership, but it's not.
No, it's about defeating the previous owner, disarming them.
Which brings us back to that scene in the Shrieking Shack.
Oh, man, intense.
Voldemort wants to know why his wands haven't been able to defeat Harry.
And Snape, trying to protect Harry, says he doesn't know.
But Voldemort doesn't believe him.
Nope, he knows Snape killed Dumbledore.
So he thinks Snape is the true master of the Elder Wand.
And well, you know what happens next.
Yeah, it's brutal. Voldemort sets Nagini on Snape.
It's a horrible ending for a character who gave up everything for Harry, who lived his life in the shadows, making sacrifices no one knew about.
But even as he's dying, Snape manages to pass on his memories to Harry.
And those memories change everything.
They do. Harry finally sees the truth about Snape.
His love for Lily, his loyalty to Dumbledore, the immense burden he carried all those years.
It completely changes how we see Snape.
Transforms him from this hated enemy to a tragic hero.
And it really drives home the point that love is more powerful than anything.
More powerful than any magic.
It's like Snape's final act of redemption.
Paving the way for Harry to face Voldemort.
With this newfound understanding, this clarity he wouldn't have had otherwise.
Exactly. It leads to one of the most powerful moments in the entire series.
When Harry decides to walk into the Forbidden Forest.
To face his own death.
He believes it's the only way to defeat Voldemort to protect the people he loves.
He's surrounded by the spirits of his parents. Sirius Lupin, all those who have died.
And he just accepts his fate.
It's such a selfless act.
Heartbreaking and inspiring at the same time.
And it echoes his mother's sacrifice, when she died to save him.
It's proof that love is the strongest magic of all.
And in a way, it disrupts Voldemort's plan, weakens his hold on power.
Sets the stage for the final confrontation.
But then something amazing happens. Harry doesn't die.
He finds himself in this strange place and he talks to Dumbledore.
They have this incredible conversation about life and death and sacrifice.
About the Deathly Hallows.
About Voldemort's biggest flaw, his inability to understand love.
It's like all the pieces finally come together.
Harry realizes Voldemort's pursuit of the Hallows was pointless.
That his obsession with power blinded him to the truth.
And then Harry wakes up.
Back in the Forbidden Forest.
And Voldemort's killing curse, it backfired.
Harry's alive.
And Voldemort, he's weakened.
The final showdown is about to begin.
The tension is incredible.
I remember reading this for the first time, just holding my breath.
And as Harry returns to the castle, he's not just armed with his wand.
He's armed with understanding, with the knowledge that love is the strongest weapon.
He faces Voldemort in the Great Hall.
Surrounded by everyone who's left.
And it's more than just a duel.
It's a battle for the soul of the wizarding world.
Love against fear, compassion against cruelty.
And it all comes down to the Elder Wand.
Voldemort, he thinks he's the master.
He casts the killing curse.
But the wand refuses to harm Harry.
because Harry disarmed Draco weeks earlier.
That seemingly insignificant moment made all the difference.
Voldemort was so focused on power, he missed that crucial detail.
And so the curse rebounds.
Strikes Voldemort and ends his reign of terror.
Good triumphs over evil.
Love wins.
But it's a bittersweet victory.
So many lives were lost.
So much pain.
But there's hope, too.
A belief that even after the darkest times, we can rebuild.
And in the epilogue, we see that happening.
19 years later, the wizarding world is healing,
A new generation is starting at Hogwarts.
carrying with them the lessons learned from the war.
It's a beautiful ending.
It reminds us that even in the face of unimaginable darkness, light can prevail.
That love is always worth fighting for.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, what can we take away?
What have we learned?
We've learned about the power of choice
The importance of sacrifice.
and the enduring strength of love.
It's a story that stays with you
A story that offers hope.
and reminds us that even in the darkest of times, there's always light.
So thank you for joining us on this journey.
We'll see you next time for another deep dive.